Well, hello there. Good evening, and thank you very much for making time for us here on Talk Point. It is always a pleasure to have you. Good to be back. Good to see you as we try to dive into some of the key political happenings that have been going on in the country. What is there to say about the One Kenya Alliance, even as they race to State House come next year, 2022, inclusive of 4 principles. That is ANC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, KANU Party leader Gideon Moi, Ford Kenya leader Moses Wetangula, and Wiper Party leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka. Just what is happening in the One Kenya Alliance. And to help me talk a little bit more about this, I have my panel for tonight. On my immediate right, I'm joined by Sharif Jere, who is an ANC strategist. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. And on my farthest right, I'm joined by James Mwangi, who is a political strategist. Thank you very much, sir, for making time.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, a lot of people have been looking at One Kenya Alliance, really, and just how things have been turning out for them and how they recently launched their presidential campaigns nationwide. But is the One Kenya Alliance okay, really? Don't they seem like they're reading from different scripts? I'd begin with you, Sharif.
Actually, there's been a misconception about One Kenya Alliance. Number one, One Kenya Alliance is still a concept. Okay. It has not been formalized officially. So when we start talking about One Kenya Alliance being okay, or One Kenya Alliance dying, I think we are running ahead of time. Okay. Because One Kenya Alliance will only be judged once the documents, the formalization documents, have been deposited at the Register of Political Parties. That is when we can now start judging One Kenya Alliance. But at the moment, One Kenya Alliance is still a concept. The leaders have come together to think of something they can do together to share ideas. But what we are seeing now, and I think this is being created by our competitors, they are trying to insinuate that One Kenya Alliance has been there, it is operating, and there are divisions within the ranks. As we speak, One Kenya Alliance, there are different committees that have been created to think of ways of engagement between the partners that have come together. These committees are looking at the possibility of the coalition being formalized, the mode of coming up with a presidential candidate, and the rules of engagement. So once they agree on that, and then they decide to deposit the formalization document, then we can start judging One Kenya Alliance. Okay. But we should stop running ahead of time.
Indeed. You've talked about time, and I'll be coming to that in just a short while. But Mr. Mwangi, to you, I mean, perception is something that a lot of people do not take granted for. You look at a party, what is the perception that people are seeing from the other side? Do they look like they're together? Do they look like they're not reading from the same script? Perception?
Yeah, thanks, madam. And about perception is very key when it comes to issues of politics. And just as you have reiterated, when it comes to issues of One Kenya Alliance, you see, they had even launched some campaigns. We saw them in Western, we have been seeing them in Thika, just the way they have been, the 4 of them. And of late, we saw some divisions. And these kind of divisions are the ones which create a perception as to how or the kind of a mentality or something, or creating a concept that was not in existence. Like you saw a couple of weeks ago, you saw that Musalia had attended a function totally different from the one which was with the other co-partners. So that tells you that if they are to work together, then you see some divisions. One if you try and dig and try to find the background of what was happening, the other one tells you he was not aware of this press conference. That tells you that they are not working together. So the kind of perception that they're going to create, remember, this day and age, we are dealing with a population that is intelligent, a population that is much more enlightened. So the kind of perception that you're going to create, that's what the general public is going to buy. Yeah. Otherwise, on issues to do with the race to State House, of course, now politics is about also time and resources. And if you try and analyze amongst the One Kenya Alliance, do they have the capability and capacity to be able to secure a place in the State House bid? Because now, as things are, you can tell that now the politics are shaping up themselves. There are other two candidates who are slightly ahead of them. So if they are telling us an issue of they have not deposited something to do with the register of political parties, then when are you intending to do that? Because now time is not also on our side, because now as you can read the political temperatures and mood, we have started seeing some high-stake politics. So when are they likely? That's why you are seeing them giving ultimatums that we need a presidential candidate by 25th, because they are also realizing that they are running short of time. And if that's the case, then we need to know where do they stand. If it's about Musalia, do they have a formula? Because we have also been seeing the same kind of wrangles, whereby amongst the core partners, they have not even agreed as to how they are going to come up with a presidential candidate or a flag bearer, because there are those who are proposing the ideology of having a scientific way of identifying a presidential candidate or a flag bearer. There are those who are pegging on experience. There are those who are pegging on so many other things that I do not know if they are going to agree, because each and every person will float an agenda. Yeah. Or a formula that is going to favor him or her. Yes. If that's the because we have the four principles, we don't have a, let's say everybody will front an idea that will suit his chances of securing a win.
Yeah. And talking of the concept of time, Mr. Jay, aren't they lagging behind? I mean, looking at their opponents, really, Raila Odinga, looking at William Ruto, wouldn't you say they're just way ahead of time? Because they've begun their campaigns, they are going through different counties, but little is to be said about the One Kenya Alliance. Don't you think like they're lagging behind, and this will be very key, particularly come next year?
When you are looking at politics, history also should come in. And if you look at Kenyan political terrain, right now, the general elections will happen in August 2022. Probably it's around 8 months from now. Yeah. Now, if you look at past history about coalitions, about campaigns, definitely you will agree it is very early. It is still very early. Really? Look at in 2013, TNA URP. When did they formalize their coalition? 4 months to the general election, and they actually won. And people were brushing them off before they did that. They say they have no clout, they have the ICC tag, all those kinds of things. But they managed 4 months too. And they were competing against someone who has been campaigning, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Okay. So when we talk about time, we need also to look at the past. Yeah, look at 2017, NASA. When did they name their presidential candidate?
A few months.
Actually, it was, is it 2? I think it was 2 months to election. And what happened? NASA actually won. The election was nullified. So when we talk about time, we need to look at the Kenyan political terrain. It is still too early. The people who are campaigning now, we have the deputy president, we have Raila on the other side. They're actually running around. But I can tell you this, they'll still go back where they have been, because the dynamics of politics in Kenya changes within a day. They'll still go back where they've passed through. So as a ANC, as people who are looking for partners through OCA and others outside, we know what we are doing. And we want to make the correct decision. We don't want to rush into things.
So what you're trying to say is there's still time and you can have even more parties join the coalition?
Correct.
Okay.
Right now, he has talked about One Kenya Alliance being disintegrated, Musalia not attending some activity in Kajiado. Well, politics is a game of competition, and of course people are allowed to disagree. So when people don't come into a middle ground on an issue, it is okay for them to step back a little, reflect, and then come back and talk. So what we are seeing now, these are normal things in politics. We should not start saying now that Musalia did not attend one activity, then they cannot work together. The Right Honorable Raila and President Uhuru, they have been the biggest of enemies before, but they are working together now. Yeah. So in Oka, what is happening, that is just a small issue.
It's the nature of it.
Yeah, which people should not take it like right now that Musalia is being isolated, Oka is moving out, and all kind of that rumors you can hear.
Yeah, and Mr. Mwangi, you know, Kotu Secretary General, that is Dr. Francis Atwoli, previously came out to say, you know, if he was asked what One Kenya Alliance, what sort of manifestos they stand for, he wouldn't be able to mention any. How true is this?
I'm just excited with my friend that is telling us about unity of the Oka people. Recently, you had Kalonzo saying that if you had, if you hear that you are, what is it? The UDA is interested in having us. Tell them I'm around. Okay. That was one quarter, a section or a faction of the Oka. Yeah. You also have Gideon Moi, whereby he has a coalition with Jubilee government, and you are hearing that there are some pressures that they wanted them at least to terminate the contract so that at least they can join as One Kenya Alliance. But now you heard that Senator Gideon Moi saying that he cannot terminate his contract, and you also heard him say that he will not mind also wanting to work with Raila Amolo Odinga. So these are things that can tell that tell you that there's disquiet. In fact, there's a quote that says, a nation is not brought down by external aggression. It's brought down by internal wrangles. So within the Oka movement, there is the internal wrangles. They have not decided who they want at least to champion for them to have a flag bearer. And even more so on the aspect of time, we have told, we're also addressing the issue of time. And you saw, let us try and put into perspective the aspect of Raila Amolo Odinga starting his campaigns a bit late. He found the ground a bit cozy, for a bit rough for him, because William Ruto had started campaigning in 2017. And you know, the more you campaign and the more you interact with people, people tend to buy what you want to say. And of late, you have just seen, like now, Raila slowly, at least narrowing the gap between him and the Deputy President William Ruto. Now, if Raila is trying to catch up with the kind of groundwork that the Deputy President had done, when will OKA try to when will OKA catch up? And you can hear from their own quarters saying by December 25th, if they have not declared a flag bearer or a presidential flag bearer, then Musalia is likely going to find his own way, because he's sensitive on the aspect of time. He's seeing now time is not within his side. And on the other aspect that you have just asked on the issues to do with the manifesto and Atwoli, yeah? I don't know when Atwoli became a doctor. I have not heard him getting a PhD anywhere. But if he has a degree or a PhD, then congratulations. But as you have heard, even from Western, even me myself, I do not know any concept to do with OKA, because the concepts that OKA, if you try and understand the concepts of OKA, you will not find a defined manifesto as to what they stand for.
So is that where they go wrong? That's
where they go wrong, because now the moment you bring the aspect of the manifesto of OKA, they will narrow it down to ANC. Utaskia, you will start hearing uchumi bora, pesa mfukoni, which is not a concept of OKA. That is a concept of ANC. And the OKA is not made of ANC alone. We also have the Ford Kenya there. We have KANU. We have Wiper. So when are they going to come up with a concept that at least everybody can buy? And you know, as youth, we're also supposed to be very sensitive when it comes to issues of the things that we are being told. You see these things that we call roadside declarations. Somebody tells you that in 2 years they are going to make sure that they have settled the debts, the Kenyan debts. I believe you have heard about that. But you tend to ask yourself, you see, there are these things that at least we should constantly enlighten other people. Currently, our debt is running to around 9 trillion. What we can be able to collect as KRA in terms of domestic collection is 1.5 trillion. Yes, 1.5 trillion. So even if you were to pay the entire 1.5 trillion to settle debts, that will take you roughly around 6 years to offset that kind of a debt. But you can hear OKA telling you that it's going to settle that debt in 2 years. So these are just wishy-washy politics and ideas that cannot be implemented or actualized by the common people. So at least people should be able to interrogate these kind of declarations and promises that are being given. Can they really be actualized? Right?
Yeah, and we want to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want us to talk about the economic model that you've mentioned, that is Uchumi Bora. We've also heard of the 24-hour working economy from Kalonzo Musyoka. Why is it critical that each of them has their own economic model rather than just, coming up with one substantive one? So we take that break, but we'll be back in just a short while.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Talk Point. Thank you for staying with us. Before the break, we were talking of the One Kenya Alliance, and that is what we are discussing today, and just the rest to State House come 2022 and some of the mishaps that the coalition has had to allegedly make, particularly when they each try to back each other up in different counties, as well as not attending some rallies together, attending some together. But we're still talking about the One Kenya Alliance. And before we took the break, Mr. Jerry, we were talking about the economic model, and Musalia has his own, which is Uchumi Bora, and the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has the the 24-hour working economy. I mean, this concept of One Kenya Alliance, you said it's just a concept, but why can't they just put these models together and come up with one strong one? What would you say?
Well, I think when I was beginning, I said One Kenya Alliance is still in discussions, and ideas are being brought together. Once they are consolidated and the group agrees, it will be deposited and made official. What if they don't agree? Well, it is politics. If they don't agree, then people will move to where they want to be, where they feel they are safe. But for now, ANC party is pushing the Uchumi Bora concept. And the Uchumi Bora concept means broadening the tax base, reducing taxes, and creating employment. Musalia Mudavadi has been talking about the economy ever since, and he is known to have warned even the Jubilee government about the current debts. When Jubilee was taking over in 2013, the country's budget was around 1.027 trillion. Today, the budget estimates, from what we are reading, they are saying in 2022 it will be 3.3 trillion. Now, if you look at that compared to unemployment rate, which was around 1.28 in 2013 when Jubilee was taking over, right now the unemployment rate is around 2.98%. It has actually increased. The budget has increased to around 200%, and unemployment rate also has increased. So that tells you there is a problem somewhere. That is why Musalia is saying, let us increase our tax base. Let us create more opportunities. Let us reduce taxes. When you reduce taxes, you make people have more money in their pocket. because if you are buying flour at around 100 bob and it has reduced to 80 shillings, then it means you have an extra 20 shillings that remains in the pocket. That is the concept of uchumi bora, pesa mfukoni. And that is the concept Musalia wants to sell. That 20 shilling accumulated, you can invest somewhere else. And that investment creates employment. Yeah. So you increase the tax base, you improve and you create more jobs, and you employ more people.
Yeah, and Mr. Mwangi, I mean, the working models, the economic models, we have quite a number of them from Dr. Ruto, from Honorable Raila. We also have one from Musalia Mudavadi, as well as Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. Why not just integrate these models into one? After all, it's for the better of the nation.
Yes, madam. You see, first and foremost, if we were to talk, you see these people talk like consultants. You know, a consultant will tell you what you ought to do, but how to do it, they don't know. That's the problem. They'll tell you need to do this. You can tell even a lady, you need to do a wedding, but as to how that lady is supposed to marshal up resources to do the wedding, you're not giving a solution to that person. So what Kenyans need to do, and maybe I can talk as a strategist, business strategist, because everything is about, is revolving about resources. It's me and you at least to make sure that at least we have finances. These things that you hear about pesa mfukoni and what have you, those are not even models. Those are just concepts that maybe they would want at least to try and entice the general voters. But if you are now to come to aspect of the rubber meets the road, how to implement those things, let me tell you, it's not an easy thing. And in any economic model, if you are to make sure that at least you assist people, regardless of whatever political model that you are talking, there are those basic fundamental things that you are supposed to put to factor. There's the aspect of factors of production, which is about the land, labor, entrepreneurship, and mechanization. Now, what has the government of Jubilee done about issues to do with land? It has still, the government of Jubilee, as much as people are bashing it, it has issued around 5.1 million titles. What does that mean to you? It means that now you have a possession, because you cannot say you possess a land without a title deed. And what does that translate to? You can maybe you can use it as a collateral to make sure that at least you can get resources that can help you or assist you to start a business, isn't it? Yeah. So, but generally, if we were to talk on issues to do with the economy in general, there's some aspect of we call intensive capital investments, because intensive capital infrastructure investment deals to do with this aspect of to do with roads. Yeah. And everybody can attest that Nairobi or the entire Kenya just literally looks like a construction site. There is roads everywhere that are being done, isn't it? You have seen there is also some electricity connectivity. The aspect of roads, electricity connectivity, at least you have an opportunity to even make these people who are at the bottom of the pyramid to start salons, to start these barber shops and what have you. But you cannot talk aspect of expanding the tax bracket so that at least you can incorporate more. If today I was to expand the tax bracket, and we are not employed, so how are we going to pay those taxes, and you don't have an opportunity? So basically what this nation needs is more of, like, let's say for example, a hybrid economic model. And the hybrid economic model is whereby you cater for the middle income people. The middle income people are the ones who set up industrial parks, and at the same time you create also an aspect where you can devolve resources to the common mwananchi down there, so that at least he can have an opportunity, or they can have an opportunity to seek an employment, to seek employment to these industrial parks that currently they are being set out. Jubilee government started on well, because it allocated around 9,000 acres of industrial parks. They are called special economic zones. What we need to do, we do not need to be taken back to the wheelbarrow models. We do not need to be taken to the agenda of 6,000 shillings and what have you, or uchumi bora. What we need to do, we already have infrastructure, isn't it? Yeah. We have already allocated 9,000 acres of special economic zones. What we need now is to make sure that we can attract investors, secure those lots, create factories that can be able to absorb our own people. And as a result of that, there are these industries that mushroom as a result of a big industry. Let's say, for example, if you were to set up an industry, an assembling plant, of which you have had like the Mahindra companies setting a plant, the Kia, the Volkswagen. There are other small cottage industries that come about. You'll hear like, oh, there's a lady who has opened a shop there, or a catering shop that takes care of the aspect of food of those people who are working in those particular places. So there are also other mushrooming cottage industries that come as a result of having one big industry that has been planted, and that is how you remove people from the lower level to at least the middle level economy.
Okay. Let me try disagree with Mwangi a bit, and I think Mwangi is saying Jubilee has done better. And I think Jubilee is doing the opposite of what he's talking about. Because if Jubilee was about improving the lives of the common people, they would have done first what he's talking about, creating industries. Jubilee is borrowing heavily to build roads. Now, majority of Kenyans are poor people who don't even have cars. Now, you tell me, how do you build roads for poor people who have no jobs and have no cars? Now he's saying the uchumi bora pesa mfukoni concept is it is enticement. Musalia has a track record. When Musalia was appointed finance minister, taking over from the late George Saitoti, Saitoti was actually removed from that office by late President Moi because of the Golden Birth scandal. And the international community had refused to help Kenya with loans because of that scandal. So Moi brought in Mudavadi at his tender age. Mudavadi managed to convince the international community to come back, IMF and others, to start helping the country. And actually the economy of Kenya came back to fit. It is Musalia Mudavadi who liberalized the communication sector. That is why we have phones now. It is under him that he came up with laws. He gave the first private license to a private media company. It is Musalia Mudavadi who brought KRA. Before KRA was commissioned, Kenya used to live on loans. When KRA started collecting taxes from Kenya, Kenya started depending on itself. For very many years during Moi's time, the international community had refused to lend Kenya money. Kenya was on its knees. It is Musalia who brought back Kenya to its feet. Now,
so the uchumi bora is better.
It is workable. Musalia is talking about something he can do. Now, coming back to what he's saying, Jubilee is like Nairobi looks like a construction site because roads are being built everywhere. Now you tell me, it's like me, Sharif, going to Muthaiga or Runda, renting a very big mansion to live in, while my kids are still learning in some funny school in a slum. It doesn't make sense, because you first build your house, make sure everything is okay in the house, then you can move to a bigger house. So what Jubilee is doing, it is the opposite. They are building roads, people are poor. They are taxing people heavily, people who have no jobs. In fact, they are making more Kenyans poor and telling Kenyans that we are improving the country for you, while actually they are just increasing the gap between the rich and the poor. Madam, yeah, if I'm to respond to my good friend, I can tell you for a fact that ANC, there is a script that they are trying to push, and it's an interesting script. Based on what my friend has said, if at all Mudavadi was that man that he's talking about, I remember when the president, the former president, Moi Kibaki, took power in 2002. And maybe he should go and check it on record. If he's that brilliant guy that he's talking about, our economy was at -3%. And I do not see how a minister with all kind of experience that is talking about an economy lagging up to -3%. So I think maybe you can join the dots. I don't know if it's leading from up or down, because now if you are talking about a negative economy, I think you are leading from down. So the economy took from -3% to 7%. So I don't know what, if they are talking about the kind of liberalization and whatever they are talking about, if it is true, then at least we could be having positive figures. Another thing, if we were to go back to history, as he's saying, in 1997, I think the former president came up with, the President Moi came up with something they call the dream team, trying to see how they are going to revive the economy and such things, that was being co-chaired by Dr. Richard Leakey and what have you. But those kind of things, nothing amongst them materialized. And in anything, if you are to check records, you see the way you can analyze apples and mangoes. You know, you cannot, you have to distinguish apples and mangoes. Maybe there is that aspect that he did the right thing, but it is an aspect of doing one right thing and taking 2 steps backwards.
Yeah. Okay. And before we take this break, really, the 4 principals, correct me if I'm wrong, have each declared about their bid to run for State House. KANU recently, appointed Gideon Moi as their presidential flag bearer. Ford Kenya as well, though the event was marred with some bit of chaos. We also have Wiper Party leader who is not yet, who has not yet really been, termed as the flag bearer of the party, but has been going around talking of what he'll do when he gets into power. The same as ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi. And Ayub Savula says consensus is the way. I mean, is it really the way? Can it really work for the One Kenya Alliance?
Of course, consensus can work for One Kenya Alliance. It worked for NASA. It is about looking at who is the most favorable, who has the biggest national outlook, and who actually can be accepted by the majority. So consensus is very possible.
Is it possible, Mr. Mwangi?
For OKA, OKA is just chasing after the wind. There is nothing that is going to come out there.
Okay. We take a quick break, but when we come back, we still have more to talk about the One Kenya Alliance, even as Ayub Savula, that is Lugari Member of Parliament, says, there's a weak link in the One Kenya Alliance. Who is the weak link? We take that break. Welcome back to the Talk Point, and now let us talk about this weak link that Ayub Savula says, one of the principles is a weak link. I mean, Mr. Mwangi, which one of them really?
All of them are weak links.
Why all of them?
They have their own individual cards. Musali has his own card. Kalonzo also launched, you remember there's a meeting that they were attending at Mombasa. Before that meeting, you had Kalonzo launching his own presidential secretariat, I think, communication secretariat. The same applies to Mudavadi, he also did the same. In fact, Wetangula, we cannot even talk about Wetangula. Wetangula and Musalia are the one and the same thing. And then you have Gideon Moi. And let's talk about facts. When you are talking about issues to do with politics, and especially when you are campaigning for a presidential seat, you cannot do away with the issues of resources. And you had the other time IBC was trying to put some caps as to how much you're supposed to use when you're campaigning for a presidential campaign. And they were putting an estimate or a caveat of around 15 billion shillings. So you just ask yourself, amongst the 4, who can be able to to use 15 billion shillings? And you cannot even if today you are to have the 15 billion shillings, you cannot use the entire 15 billion shillings and remain without anything.
But
so that's why
you cannot just wave away leaders like ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and Wiper party leader Kalonzo Musyoka. I mean, he has served as a vice president before, both of them actually.
Yes.
And also, before you continue,
yes,
let him tell us where are the other two getting that 15 billion? The ones he's saying they can mount a campaign.
It's okay. I will answer that. If IBC was to put a caveat as to the amount of money are supposed to use as a campaign is around 15 billion shillings, of which the parliament decided to overthrow that kind of a thing. It simply tells you that IBC had done its own investigations. And you have heard when people talk about issues to do with campaign and fundraising of campaigns. I can tell you for a fact that sometimes back, even Musalia Mudavadi himself, I think my colleague knows that he had sent one of his former Secretary General to go and look for resources in Italy, and I think that's what they have been doing. So there are many other sources and foundations as to where people can be able to raise finances, because he's the one who told in his own account that he had sent one of his Secretary Generals to go and look for finances there. So when it talks to issues of finances, people will do fundraising and that kind of stuff. But the aspect of our parliament overthrowing that kind of a bill, to me it was not a wise thing, because now you see those people who are at the bottom of the pyramid, if you do not have resources, then it proves to be a bit difficult for you to secure a position, because now the status of Kenyans the way they are at the moment, as a result of COVID, COVID made people at least lose some significant kind of jobs. Around 16 or around 5 million people lost their jobs. And those are people that you can easily bear out if you have resources, because now people are looking as to now how they can put food on the table. So a hungry economy or a hungry nation can easily be sworn or swayed to a particular dimension or direction, so if they don't have resources. But the moment you empower them, then they can be able to make their own independent decisions. So going back on the aspect as to what you have asked about Musalia Mudavadi, and he has served as a president and what have you. If you try to analyze the history of Musalia Mudavadi and William Ruto, these are interesting fellas, because they have done one successive thing, but immediately after the successive thing that they have done, you will trace a scandal behind it. You remember there's the liberalization and whatever kind of my friend has described. There's that tag of the golden bag, which he has never shed it off. There's the aspect of you remember the Mavoko land. He has never shoved it off his shoulders. So the same aspect that is applying also to William Ruto. He will tell you about his track record on 2013 and 2017. But as much as he did whatever he was able to do, what are the kind of scandals that are following that particular gentleman? There's the May scandal, there's so many scandals. So just as I was telling you, they are making one step ahead and then they make two backwards. Okay,
and really, I mean, why would Ayub Savula feel like there's a weak link? And for it to come from him, meaning it's not the ANC, part, it's the other part. Why does he feel this way?
Actually, before I go to Savula, the issue of resources and finances. Number one, now I understand why he's defending Jubilee. Okay. Jubilee has made Kenyans so poor that they know for you to go to the ground you need money. Okay. So what I can tell him is about resources. ANC is prepared, Mudavadi is prepared for the campaign. He has done it before in 2013. He will do it better in 2022. So
the other parties are not prepared?
Of course, once we agree and formalize the coalition, everyone will bring whatever they have to bring on the table. So we cannot talk about them. But what we know, ANC is prepared for the campaigns. On the issue of, he has talked about scandals. Golden Bag scandal, it is all over. You can Google it and see the initiators of Golden Bag. When Golden Bag started, it is George Saitoti was finance minister. It is not Musalia. It is actually Musalia who stopped Golden Bag. It is all over the history, the people who are involved. When you go to Land Cemetery, Musalia was a witness in court. He stood on the bar when he was Deputy Prime Minister. And the people who were involved in the Land Cemetery scandal were jailed. One of them, former town clerk Gakuo, died actually while in jail. So they cannot peg anything on Musalia. The evidence is there. Musalia has talked about it. Musalia has given evidence on them. Now, on the issue of weakling, well, in politics, people are convinced, people are persuaded. Of course, in Oka, there are people who are scared of the team moving ahead together. And we have outsiders who are trying to interfere. And actually, Musalia has spoken about it.
The external pressure?
Yes. So that is what Savula was talking about. He was trying to say that there are some people in Oka who should not bow to pressure from outside.
Is that Gideon Moi?
That is what. No, well, I cannot say it is him, because there are 4 of them. You wouldn't know it, because even Savula himself did not mention the name, unless I consult him and ask.
No, but Gideon Moi talks of, the party at large really has no problem with working with ODM. Is this where, what you're talking about really?
Of course, Oka has no problem with working with ODM, but ODM should come with our terms, because we have helped them before in NASA. So they should not pressure us to follow them again. They can come, but when they come, as Oka, our commitment right now is to working with new and better partners. If ODM says it is coming, actually, we will put them on the last number of people we are admitting in Oka.
That's interesting.
Yes, because we believe ODM are bullies. ODM are people who believe that if it is not them, then there should be no other person. That is why we're saying if they want to come work with us, they should come on our terms, not theirs.
Yeah, and Mr. Mwangi had come to you really. He says this external pressure is what is forcing a lot of, I'd say, cracks in the One Kenya alliance. Particularly over the weekend, they were set to head to Kiserian together. But, Wiper and Ford Kenya headed to Kiserian, but ANC stayed in the capital city of Nairobi. And when asked about this, some of the Kanu party members say, no, we weren't even aware of the ANC meeting in Nairobi. I mean, these divisions really, is it from external pressure? Because they can't seem to let go of NASA. They actually say the wounds of NASA is what is causing this division among the principals.
These principles, as my friend has reiterated, I don't think external pressures can amount to you not even having a coordinated communication system whereby one team is in Kajiado and the other one is in Nairobi. So that is just an excuse that no one can buy, because now you cannot tell me that even your communication is organized by external factors. These are internal communications that you are supposed to sit as a group. You agree, even if you are to agree, let's just speak in one voice, that as a team we agreed, Musalia is going to be heading to Nairobi, the other team is going to be in Kajiado, and at least you give a statement that is unilateral, a statement that all of you agreed. But it's funny when one faction is approached and they say they are not aware. They are not aware about team A and B were to have a meeting in such a place. So if we were to talk the aspect of ANC, just as I had reiterated there before, these are people who, like, you'll never trust a politician. And you see, if you see Musalia giving some ultimatums, I can tell you for a fact, because at least you are in the political scene. Musalia has a card, and the card he has already registered a coalition. That in the event he does not secure to be the flag bearer in the Oka system, the system of coalition of Oka, he'll just walk out and try to see if he can come up with his own a coalition with other people who are of the same interest. So this is a coalition that they are living in a lot of doubts. Everybody is doubting the other move, and you know there have been politics of betrayal before. So they have put their cards so close to their chest because they do not know who will start betraying the other one first. And as you've heard, yes, and, yeah, true. And as you've heard Gideon Moi talking about the other time, he said that the kind of mistrust that you are seeing in Oka is emanating from the ghosts that were haunting them in AN. Remember the AN? What do we call it? The NASA coalition. So they are bringing the baggage of NASA back to. Okay, yeah, because now this one does not want to work with Raila. The other one feels that he was betrayed. Kalonzo, he feels he was betrayed. Mudavadi, the other time they were swearing in Raila, he said he cannot participate on that kind of a function. And he has a right to choose whatever he wants. But all the same, there is a high degree of mistrust when it comes to issues of Oka. And if they are to work together, first and foremost, let them at least capitalize and build their trust issues first so that they can move ahead. But if they don't fix the issues of trust issues, then you can be sure they are going down the drain.
Okay, and as we conclude, I'd love to hear from you, Mr. Jere, from the ANC point of view. Will One Kenya Alliance stand the tides of time?
Well, what I can say is it is not cast in stone that for Musalia to be president, he must work with a coalition called One Kenya Alliance. Okay. Or there is a certain coalition named ZA or ZB for him to become president. What we are seeing now are teething problems which are normal in politics. And whether One Kenya Alliance works or not, there are so many partners in Kenya who can mount a campaign and actually deliver presidency. What we as ANC are looking at, we are looking at partners who we can come reach it into a common goal and agree that we want to work together and improve the economy, improve the livelihoods of Kenyans. Okay. Yes. Mr.
Mwangi, final word. Will the One Kenya Alliance be able to actually make it to the ballot?
What I want to tell my friend, politics is about figures. Politics is about statistics. Politics is about numbers. So maybe he can go reflect back and see if his political boss is able to match numbers, of which I cannot see, because if you cannot even be able to solidify your bloc, that is the Western bloc, somebody like Raila is able to mash up quite a considerable number of votes from your backyard, then that tells that there are some things that you need to fix if at all he's a serious presidential candidate.
A serious presidential candidate.
Yes. The fact that we are discussing my boss names is a force to reckon with.
Yes, no problem. That's what I'm saying. You need to go and do some arithmetics, because a president is not appointed on the aspect of just talking. It's aspect of issues of numbers, isn't it? Yeah, thank you.
All right, and that is where we want to wrap our broadcast tonight. This is the Talk Point, and I have been with my panel on my immediate right, that is Sharif Jere, an ANC strategist, and on my farthest right as well, James Mwangi, who is a political strategist. Thank you very much for this conversation and for your insight on it. And that is where we say goodbye for now. I'm Cynthia Nanjala. See you next Friday.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay.